Well, first of all, thanks for having me. It's a short trip, actually, if you go through the parking lot and a block that way is where I live. My son tried to convince me to ride our three-wheeler over here, but I said I had to wear my sport coat and dress up, so I was afraid I was going to get a little dirty. A little bit about me. I got involved in government 13 years ago when there was an incident that was happening in the village of Lakewood, and we, at the time, they were two Democrats with another Republican, and they were trying to cut the budget, and more so cut for the police and the fire department. Now, at the time, I didn't have as much time in. I've got 32 years in with the volunteer fire department now. And then Tony Caprino said, we need somebody from the fire department on the village board. Are you interested? Why not? What would it hurt? So I ran, was elected to the village board, ran again a second time after the passing of Tony, and I was then asked by Dave Wertelman to be the deputy mayor. So the last 2 years of that term, I was deputy mayor. With that being said, what happened was at the time I was having breakfast with then Bill Parman, and had a question that I posed to him that really kind of called him out. I didn't do that intentionally, but that's how it came about. And that afternoon, Greg Edwards called me and said, would you consider running for state assembly? I'm just a young kid. Yeah, why not? Okay, you think I can do it? Not knowing Andy, not knowing anything and how to go about the process. So I threw my hat in the ring, and we went on the floor of the county committee, and obviously you know what happened, and Andy won the endorsement and has been a great advocate for Chautauqua County. But at that point they said, if you want to move up or consider something like this again, you should really go to the county, and that's what I did. And then Rudy Mueller was our representative for here in the town of Busti in Lakewood. I ran. Rudy decided not to run in 5 consecutive terms. I had one opponent. I'm not doing that braggingly. I'm just saying that obviously if I'm doing a good enough job, others don't think that they can do a better job and didn't challenge me. So I feel good on my representation for my residents in the village of Lakewood, in the town of Busti, and actually in the city of Jamestown. I rose through the ranks. After my first term, I was asked by Vince Horgan to be chairman of at the time it was called the Community Justice Coordinating Council. They were looking at reductions and ways to keep people out of jail. You know, they say if you educate, you don't incarcerate. Well, I was here to tell you that we educate them and then we would incarcerate them as well. But I was working on that plan to reduce the population in the jail and try to get diversions and so forth. And we were doing that until our governor made his crazy way of diverting people from jail, which was letting them all free. But again, having said that, that's where I started my move. I became, the last 4 years of my time in the legislature, I was the assistant majority leader. And the last 2 years, I was the chairman of the legislature, voted unanimously by both sides. Some of the things we've done, my opponent has criticized me. What have you done in 8 years? Well, in 5 of those 6 years, we lowered taxes. We lowered the tax rate 5 out of 6 years. In this year's presentation I made amidst COVID, and it's not smoke and mirrors, it's not gimmicks, it's not a publicity stunt for an election. I talked to my team, which is bipartisan, and they said, we could feel confident with a 5-cent reduction in your rate. That's what I proposed. I didn't propose that as some pie in the sky, looking through rose-colored glasses, overly optimistic, this budget. I put that out because I knew this was my first budget and probably the most criticized budget that I'll ever produce, especially in COVID. I sat down with other county executives throughout New York State, and I met with Dave Lucas, who's a finance director for NYSEC, New York State Association of Counties. And I said, Dave, are these our numbers in Chautauqua County? He said, yes. I go, you're sure? Yes. The reason I asked was because at that point, in early October, we were 0.4% ahead of this year's projections in sales tax. Now, why I said that was because that was a 2% increase from 2019. So with an 8-week shutdown of our economy, we were ahead. Now, just barely ahead. But when you think we shut down our economy for 8 weeks and we're still ahead in sales tax revenue, I think that's pretty good. We're doing the right thing. I just spoke with my finance team this morning. We meet once a week, that same group of people. And they said we are trending ahead. The fourth quarter has always been very strong. Right now, my finance director said we are ahead of our adopted budget, which means what we projected from last year, we're ahead with an 8-week shutdown of our economy. So criticisms from people in the paper, I've got a pie in the sky look, I'm not realistic, I beg to differ. But the other side of this is we don't know what's going to happen. You know, we don't know what could happen. Nobody even projected this to happen. So with COVID, we'll take it as we get it. You know, I was fortunate enough through this time, and I've met a lot of great people. One was General John Hussey. He's a two-star general, was in charge of the Abu Ghraib prison camp. And he talked about how to get through things, you know, and this COVID, which we're all, the word COVID fatigue probably doesn't have a better definition than any other definition in the dictionary right now, because we're all facing it. Everybody. My staff, our Health and Human Services Director, Christine Schuyler, our nurses, everybody who's doing this legwork is getting very fatigued. But you know what? You look at our numbers, compared to other counties, we are doing much better, without a doubt. So what have I done since I've been here? So obviously, you know, we have a gentleman by the name of Pat Ryan who was an county executive for a year, and COVID hit. And people were talking to Pat, oh, you know, Pat, whoa, man, you've been here for a year, no, you're not. And Steve Aquaria, the NISAC executive director, and he says, are you going to tell him or should I? I just keep quiet. And the reason why is I was here 3 months when COVID hit. You know, this wasn't anything you have a book for. There's no thing on the side, you know, smash, you know, in case of emergency, smash glass and take out this book and we're going to show you how to get through it. You know, General Petraeus said this, if you drop a lump of clay in front of a potter, you make a pot. I tell everybody we play 5-card stud every day. I get 5 cards, I got to play the best hand I can that day. Now sometimes the guy next to me steals a card and gives me a one that isn't even, I'd say, crappy. Okay, and that's just what it is, because the way the day starts and the way the day finishes, I never know. I've got a great group of people around me. I've got great doctors that are on my COVID response team. I've got our medical directors. I've got our emergency services director. I've got the person that I have the utmost confidence in, and that's Jim Quattrone as our sheriff. I've known Jim 43 years, since I moved here in 1977. He and I were altar boys at Sacred Heart Church back in the day. But growing up and establishing those relationships are what's paramount in Chautauqua County. You know, I've been in the fire service. You know, we're having an issue right now. If you've seen, you know, we are talking with the city of Jamestown. They've negotiated a great contract with All-Star. But what people don't know is there's also a component of the fly car system, which I was pretty instrumental in creating, that's saving lives in Chautauqua County. It's saving lives, and people are alive in Chautauqua County if it were not for that fly car system, aiding our local volunteer agencies. Now, moving forward with that, you know, when I sit down in these meetings, I've got 32 years of background that I bring when it comes to fire and EMS. When I'm talking about understanding what's happening. You know, do I know everything? No. I'll be the first one to admit it. But what I do always do is surround myself with good people. You know, we are looking to grow Chautauqua County. That is our job. That's my job. I'm in charge of the day-to-day operations of our county, but we're looking to grow Chautauqua County. The Amazon thing came up. You know, again, it's just a smoke and mirror. So what had happened was, I was watching, you know, when I was watching the news one morning, and it said problems were happening in Amazon up in Grand Island. That was on Thursday night, Friday morning, Friday morning I saw it on television. Saturday morning I called Mark Geis and Rich Dixon. I said, we got to bird dog this. Get on it and find out what's happening in Grand Island, and we need to get ahead of the game and see what we can do. Throw our hat in the ring. Tell them what Chautauqua County has. We have an index. We've got an inventory of all of our properties. That's what they did. A couple weeks later, somebody called me and said, did you see the report in the Buffalo News? No, I have no idea. Buffalo News says you have 2 properties. Where are they? Well, one property was in Ripley, the other one was at the Mason Industrial Park. Amazon is still looking. We're still working those deals out. But so are 6 other counties in New York State and hundreds of other counties through the United States. But again, we're operating, we're opening up those avenues of communication. We're getting that dialogue going. That's what we're here to do. But in the wake of that, we've got 4 or 5 other businesses that have reached out to our IDA and said, we want to come to Chautauqua County. We have a plane manufacturing business that came to Chautauqua County and said, we saw what you have, we want to move here. We didn't sell it to them. We didn't go out pounding on doors asking, bring your business here. They saw what we had, they moved here. Luscombe now has people flying in. It's a real unique airline. And that airline has a small, it's like Harley Davidson, only more unique. Not as many, the airplane was created in the 1930s, and it's a very unique concept plane. It's a very small plane, very affordable. But again, they're coming here. There's several other things that we can't talk about just because they're so new and in their infancy. These things take time to develop. You know, it's kind of like hatching an egg. You got to keep it warm, you got to keep attention to it, and you have to keep moving it along. and then those things are going to move into fruition. And that's what we're doing right now, with the IDA. George Borrello, when he was county executive, hit 100 businesses in 100 days. And of course, you saw that in the paper today. It was an incredible feat. But what George found was 700 jobs available in Chautauqua County. Anybody who says you can't find a job in Chautauqua County, you're not looking. I went to Rand Machine 2 weeks ago. They're looking for people. One of the things they say is, well, if you put robotics, my opponent says, well, Amazon's great, but in a couple, 10 years, 15 years, it's going to be all robotics. The gentleman stood next to me and he said, let's talk about robots. And he introduced me to the person working the machine. He said, do you want to do this job 2,000 times? No, thank you. And what that robot did was took 2 U-shaped bolts that actually attach to the bottom of a bomb, and that's what hangs on the bottom of a plane. And when the bomb gets released, that piece that's manufactured in Jamestown is dropped. I'm not going to do that 2,000 times. Well, that's what the robot does. So it's not, robots aren't coming here taking our jobs. But what it does allow is it allows that person to learn how to develop, learns how to program the machine, work in the CNC. It just creates more opportunity for the individual. So the mundane task is getting covered by the robot. Rand Machine started out with 53 people 2 years ago. They're up over 120 employees right now and still growing. And the one thing that everybody has told me when I visited business, we can't find good people to work that are going to get to work, be on time, and continue to work. I've heard things from businesses saying people walk out in the first shift. I've had this is too much for me. By lunch, they're walking out. We have to change that belief. One of the things I've had with 25 years in education is reaching out to the schools and saying, we've got to get these kids trained. Hard work does not kill anybody.
That's right.
Okay? We need to fill these jobs. Right now, Blue Bunny, $25 an hour, working third shift. Now that's the ice cream manufacturer, Wells. You probably heard that. It's Fieldbrook Foods. I was well acquainted with Fieldbrook a couple of months ago. They make ice cream. The third shift sanitizes their entire project. That's what they do. $5,000 sign-on bonus, $23 an hour. It's a pretty good wage. But they can't find people to fill those jobs. That's Chautauqua County. So again, why am I saying that? Because we need to work with our schools. We need to work with our guidance counselors. We need to work with JCC. We need to work with people, giving those students the skills ready to enter the workforce. The P-Tech Academy in Dunkirk is an excellent example. They have 2 kids right now that are in the P-Tech Academy working at Rand Machine who have jobs as soon as they graduate. Same thing, Cummins has offered jobs to people at P-Tech because of their skill set. They're ready to go. Somebody once told me when I first got into education, I was at a conference at Frewsburg. Ron DeCarli, longtime basketball coach at St. Bonaventure, he said the world needs ditch diggers too. Does anybody know? We all laughed. Caddyshack. Judge Smell said that, because I want to go to college, I want to be a lawyer. Well, the world needs ditch diggers too. But the reason he said that made a good point is we've told an entire generation, if you don't go to college, we've got problems.
Yeah.
That's wrong.
That's wrong, you're right.
Think about it. How many people like to call, and if there's a mechanic in the room, I apologize, I'm doing that, okay? But think about it. Do you want to call an electrician? Do you want to call a plumber? Or call your mechanic? Because they're going to tell you how much you're going to pay them. Because that's a dying breed. Why is it people think that being a mechanic is some less of a job than anything else? An electrician. I had electricians come in and do a bid at my house, $1,800. I guarantee you, I know because they're friends of mine, I'm not going to be here more than an hour. I think it's a pretty good chunk of change for an hour's worth of work. But we have to educate kids. We have to tell kids that that's what's here, the trades. I have a friend of mine that's a welder. He goes, Pete, I bought an Audi in 2 years, I have it paid off. He goes, I'm doing good as a welder. I have a former student of mine who's a welder. We hired him at the county. He's got a career with the county. He's got the retirement system, and he's making good money. Telling kids we need to get people back into our trades.
Right.
We need to make that a staple. One of the things I've worked closely with is Daniel DeMark, the Manufacturing Institute in Jamestown. We're opening that and creating more opportunity for our students to learn in high school. Let's face it, I sat there, I knew those kids that don't want to be in high school. They don't want to sit in the classroom. They need hands-on. They want to move. They want to work. They want to be tool makers. They want to be welders. That's what we need to open the opportunity. Yes, there's kids that like to go to college. They're going to want to go to college. But there are kids that don't want to, and we need to make those jobs available for them to sustain ourselves here in Chautauqua County. We're coming out of COVID. There's no two ways about it. And where we set ourselves up is crucial. We put ourselves in a very good position based on the survivability, the way we're following our guidance from the governor, as challenging as that is. The word fluid has a completely different meaning to me because it's constantly changing. The goalposts are being moved. Now, being an athlete all my life, playing football, I never wanted those goalposts to move, but the governor keeps moving our goalposts to the soccer goals, keeps extending the finish line a little bit longer. But I can tell you I'm a voice. And I'm a voice for our county, no matter who we're talking about. The reason I said that was, if you look at what's happened in Chautauqua County, in New York, for example, Senator Borrello and Assemblyman Wendel put forth a regional opening plan. And that's what we've used here in New York State, is a regional approach to opening. 5 weeks, I found the email that last week, April 22nd. I sent a letter out to all of our businesses saying, please look at the CDC and OSHA guidelines, create a safety plan to open your business, and then I want you to send it to the health department, Senator Borrello and Assemblyman Wendel. Within days, we had businesses sending things ready to open, beating down the door, ready to open. 5 weeks later, Governor Cuomo said, here's what I'd like you to do. I'm going to create a template. You're going to fill out a safety plan. We're going to give you a check mark, and then have that safety plan on hand in case somebody sees it. 5 weeks earlier, that started in Chautauqua County. Also part of the Senator and Assemblyman's opening plan. What you're seeing in New York State has been started here in Chautauqua County to get us open, to move our economy, to get things going forward. I was told by John Majori, who was our executive in the executive chamber, he said, County Executive Wendel, just so you know, you're moving to phase 1 on Tuesday. This was Sunday at 10 minutes to 12. The governor knows who the blank this guy is in Chautauqua County, and he also said you have compelling arguments. Because not only do I bring a question, but I bring a solution with it. I continue to fight in our control room day after day. One of our media says, oh, the control room's a farce. Wrong. He's never sat in our control room. We go toe to toe. I've created what we call the Border County Coalition. The counties that started way back in Rockland County go all the way up and over. Because a week ago, when the governor said we can't open movie theaters, I was like, yeah, when I first said we could open, I was excited. And then the paper said, did you realize you're on the list that you can't open? I'm like, no, why? I wasn't given any information. The governor just made this announcement. And all of a sudden I got concerned because he's starting to paint the picture. And what concerned me was, oh, the border counties. Yeah, your cases are going up. Oh, because Pennsylvania's going up. We got to stop. We got to shut down. No, it's not there. It's not. Warren County, their numbers are very low. Erie County, I talked to County Executive Dahlkemper. We're watching our numbers. They're not rising either. Okay, but I'm fighting in our control room for Chautauqua County. How to open this up responsibly and safely. I'm an EMT, trust me. I've gone out on COVID calls. I've gone out using Narcan. I mean, I at this point I can kind of walk the walk because I've been here and some of these problems we have in these crises. So that's what I bring to the table, years of experience, and I'm going to continue to fight and be the voice for our residents. But that's what this is about. I've said it before, our comeback is going to be greater than our setback, and I believe that wholeheartedly. Chautauqua County residents have a great work ethic. They've got a great history. It was interesting when we talked about the Constitution. One last thing, I'm a documentary nerd. I love documentaries. And I was watching a documentary on Antonin Scalia. And the unique thing about Antonin Scalia was he has dictionaries from different eras in time. And to the Reverend's point is, because as the Constitution was written, words had a different meaning in 1880 than they do in 1980. And Antonin Scalia used those dictionaries, so when he had to write an opinion, it was based on how it was written then. Not what it's written now, or the interpretation is now. It's what it was back then, and that's important. One of the quotes that I've used from Antonin Scalia was, they talked about the Supreme Court, and he says, we're not final because we're infallible. We're infallible because we're final. What that means is, we're not perfect, but because we're the last ones to speak, it kind of gives us that image that we're perfect. And I've said that about Chautauqua County. We're not perfect because we do everything great here, but I took notes and I listened to everybody else and what they were doing in Chautauqua, in New York State, and made sure we didn't make those mistakes here, and we tried to correct those before we implemented them here. But to take it a step further, that quote didn't come from Antonin Scalia. Does anybody know where it came from? Robert H. Jackson made that quote. Steve Cass brought that to my attention. I talked to Judge Cass probably once or twice a month. We're good friends. He goes, Peach, that was not Robert H. Jackson. Of course, being a Frewsburg guy, I'm like, it was. So it's important that we follow, understand the Constitution, and it's really unique. Again, Amy Coney Barrett, the best thing, I loved it. When she pulled out and they said, "Where are your notes?" She goes, "I don't have them." That's what people say, how do you talk? I'm the same way. I'm not Amy Coney Barrett, but I'll tell you, I don't bring notes. I don't come up here with an agenda and talk because a lot of times that's difficult for me. I make mistakes and I trip over things. I speak who I am and what I am. Obviously, next week is the election. I'd ask for your support, but I think we're doing the right things here in Chautauqua County. We're moving forward, we're being progressive, and we're looking out for our residents as we move forward, bringing opportunities. I've got a 19-year-old daughter who got the bug of travel. She was in the Czech Republic when this hit. She wants to go to Spain as soon as they free her up. She wants to do international studies. My brother travels all over the world, and she's going to be with him. But, I'd love for my son and my daughter both to come back here and experience what I grew to love here in Chautauqua County. That's why I'm staying here. I'm committed to Chautauqua County, and I'm committed to the people. Anybody have any questions? I know, real quick, I know this guy apologized. I may have talked too long, but if you learn from me, I can do that. Yes?
You said you talked with Erie people up there. This was recently?
Well, I talked to Erie, PA. 2 points. I talked to Mayor, County Executive Dahlkemper about a month and a half, 2 months ago. I talked to Mark Poloncarz. I just texted him this morning. We talked quite a bit from Erie County, New York.
I was talking in reference to Erie,
PA. I talked to County Executive Dahlkemper about a month and a half, 2 months ago. We started working together on some things that we'll see how they move forward.
Well, but my question is, they have come at us with these rallies being the super spreaders and all that. It's our fault because this COVID has gone up. I was wondering if you've gotten any recent counts of any illnesses from them from last week's rally.
No, we haven't. The numbers we're seeing right now, I can tell you right now, I'm honest, and they'll be contrary to belief. I just want to share this with you. There aren't people stacked up in trailers anywhere. The numbers I give you are the numbers that we get. I don't embellish. One thing I learned from Tony Caprino long ago: you don't lie, you don't embellish, you don't BS anybody, because it's going to come back and really burn you. These numbers that we put out there are just that. We don't see an uptick in cases from any of the events. Actually, to put it out there, I had tickets to be at the event last week.
That was good.
Ironically, Tuesday is when the governor said, we have this, whatever happened with Pennsylvania. I was in the midst of the call with all those county executives, really a couple of them in the county leadership, and our phones go off, we all look and we go, you getting the same message? The executive director, Steve Aquario, said PA's on the list, and he knew we were having the meeting. So my jaw hit. And the reason why, Kathy Hochul was in our office that morning, and at 10:25 she looked up and said, county executive, that was an overzealous reporter from Buffalo that made the statement about Pennsylvania going on the list. Have you seen any support from New York State on this? No. Okay.
She's a liar.
Well, whether she was a liar or not, the governor threw her under the bus by 12:15 that afternoon when Pennsylvania, in my opinion, is on the list. But he made the most logical comment that he ever did. We know it's nearly impossible to enforce and to keep them out because of the boundaries. But again, but what it is sending shockwaves across, because now Ohio's upset saying, why are you banning us? Pennsylvania's numbers are worse than ours, and we're that close to you. When I did a press conference early on, 453 miles between Suffolk County with Steve Ballone and PJ Wendel in Chautauqua County. But when I was complaining about the shutdown of New York State, basically pleading my case, and Steve Aquario's like, Pete, in 2 hours you could be in Cleveland. Yeah. 2.5, yeah, do the math. People were leaving Chautauqua County because New York, Pennsylvania, and Ohio were open. That was my concern. My economy's driving out. That's what was happening. I was concerned for the economy. We knew the health and safety was here. Now it's the economy that was leaving. And that's what I was very critical of, and still am. I think very safely we can open up our restaurants to more capacity. I think we can do more for our private clubs. We have shown that. We've demonstrated, our team in Chautauqua County has shown and demonstrated that we can control what's happening. I shouldn't say control it, but if we do see an outbreak, we can go after it, we can trace it, and we can mitigate the spread with our contact tracing. We've proven that with Fieldbrook Foods, with SUNY Fredonia, and unfortunately now with Tango. You know, it's very effective. Anything else? Any questions?
Yeah, I got one.
Yes.
When they gonna open up the DMV where you can get,
Yeah, good question.
you know,
So today I had a department heads
take
meeting.
transfer and
Yeah.
stuff.
Right. You know, there's a little bit to that a lot of people don't realize. There's been a fight from the governor to control and take over the transactions at the DMV. So if you think about that, now we shut this down. This is where the governor is saying, do it online or make the appointments, and it's creating a lot of headache. Well, folks, it's easy. Send it to Albany. We'll take care of it. And there goes our money.
Yeah.
Because that money, if a transaction takes place in Chautauqua County, the money stays here. We're fighting that. One of the questions I'm asking tomorrow in our control room is, when can we start to open the DMVs? We know effectively we can maintain 6 feet of social distancing in our DMV, and we aren't going to have an influx. That's the push we're going to be making, is to get those back open. Right now, that's the one crux we have in Chautauqua County. You have a lot of things, because right now you have to wait outside and the inclement weather's going to come, and it's just not acceptable. Yes?
Mine was due the 30th, and like on the 30th, oh my God, I gotta get that done. Well, I called, because they knew there was no point in going down, and the telephone, blah, 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 blah. And they said, mail it in, don't worry about when it gets back, it's probably gonna be 2 or 3 weeks. I ended up taking it to the Dunkirk office, as I was going by there, dropped it in the mailbox, I had that in the mail Saturday.
Yeah. Everybody has different cases. Some people have dropped it off in Jamestown and got it right back. Some people have dropped it off in Jamestown and don't get it for 2 months later. So I don't say it's hit or miss, but just depending on the volume of the business sometimes. Some groups work faster than others. Yeah.
Hey, PJ, with regard to the DMV, on a positive note, I appreciate that, but on a secondary note, some of those, and it's not myself, but I'll speak for others, are being required to get a, quote, DMV approved eye exam, which doesn't qualify as a real eye exam, but still puts money out of their pocket, which is ridiculous. I mean, for years and years, the joke across the entire country was anybody can pass, a blind person can pass a New York State eye exam, because all they want to hear is rattle off on the numbers or letters. But now they have to go and pay out of their own pocket for a, quote, New York State DMV eye exam. And that's not acceptable.
I'll have to look into that. I don't know the answer to that. I'll talk to Larry and Kai. But those letters I just said, that's the line for 2020. DEFPOTEC. Def Protect. Yeah.
Could you clarify the position that has been attributed to you regarding the Green New Deal that Cuomo's pushing down our throats here in Western New York?
The Green New Deal it's never been attributed to me in Chautauqua County. If you're looking at the statement of the solar project, that statement was based on the IDA making the effort to offer a pilot program, which is what we've done for any business that's coming to Chautauqua County. I can tell you I'd be the last one to support the governor's Green New Deal, I can tell you that right now. That's not what I believe in. Green jobs or green energy does not provide jobs, sustainable jobs in Chautauqua County. If you look at the windmills, the number of people that are employed right now to maintain those windmills is minimal. I think it's a handful of people. Any solar project would be the same. I don't know those numbers off the top of my head. But what had happened was we did have a company that wanted to come in and put in a solar farm, and the IDA, which we do with all of our businesses that come to the area, they've reached out, and the IDA did work with that business to get things started for them to move forward with that pilot. But that's where it stood. I am not in any way, shape, or form supporting the new Green Deal. I can tell you that right now. That's not what I'm about. But what's happening, we talked about this because many people came to the legislature over the months with our wind projects in other areas. You know, those are decisions that are left up to the towns and or village, more so the towns and the villages. And the village residents need to be outspoken. They need to talk with their representatives. That is not the county to put our foot down. We have a home rule, and the home rule is your towns and villages. You've elected those individuals, and that's where those decisions need to come from. Now, again, if there's a concern for that, the public does have a public referendum, which means you can get enough signatures and force that to a vote. They did that here with the dissolution of the village of Lakewood. If you get enough signatures, and I'm not sure the exact number of the signatures, it changes for different based on population, but if you get that percentage of signatures, then that will bring about a vote, and the residents of the town or village, in our case here in Lakewood, get to vote on whether or not they want to dissolve. And that's the best way for the residents to have a voice. You know, somebody brought this up in one of my debates. What do you think about dissolutions and mergers? I think in the right ways, they're fine. But what people have to remember is those decisions are left up to the voters. School districts, the county executive, my opponent said the county executive can work on that. We cannot enforce a merger of a school district. That is up to state ed, and that's up to the voters. Dissolution of a village, Silver Creek, Lakewood, that's up to the residents of that village. Some did vote to dissolve those villages. But getting back to, I in no way support the governor's new, Green New Deal. I don't even know the name of it, to be honest. I'm not about bringing and stuffing something down the road because it's subsidized by taxpayer money. We're finding this out in the county. They said we're going to give you $25,000 if you put up a solar farm in this part of the Canyon landfill. We don't even use this part of the landfill. Why not do it? They came back with us a couple months or a month or two later, said we're going to give you $75,000 now. I'm not an economist, but I wasn't born last night. If you're giving me $75,000, what are you making? And how long are you going to be there once you get your payout and you bolt? And now we're left with the maintenance and the upkeep and all these other. Those are the things that they don't tell us about. Okay? There's a solar project that started right across the street at the Lakewood Fire Station. We have solar panels on that roof. They're also, I believe, on the Village Hall as well. I could tell you we aren't seeing any stark influx of money based on the solar. The solar technology, it's better than wind in the fact that solar is getting smaller in their cells. The efficiency, I'm told, on some of these large projects is as low as 7%. Numbers have been given to me, and as high as 12 to 15%. I don't know if those are the numbers that people are sharing with consumers or sharing with the public when it starts. They dangle money out in front of people as subsidies, and that's how these projects get started. But I urge everybody, research, look into the companies, because what happens is this. When they come in, they create LLCs, and this is what's happened in one of our projects I was made aware of. There's a parent company that has, whether it's solar or wind, I can't remember which one it is, but I guess the energy doesn't matter. But that company is, let's say it's, Solar Power USA. Well, then they create Solar Power Chautauqua County, LLC. And then even lower than that, they could create Solar Power Town of Busti, LLC. And when they create those LLCs, they don't have assets, they have very little, if anything, so when they go belly up, who do you sue? Well, you can't go back to the parent company because they've been twice removed. And the deals are set up so that it's very hard to go back. I'm not saying it's scandalous, I'm not saying that at all. But that's how these companies are set up. That's how the LLCs are set up. And they're set up specifically for that reason, to protect the investors and the people that are putting the money out or the people that are starting these projects. That's what I urge everybody to follow and to research. Do the research, find out who these companies are. Whether somebody said, well, what are these wind farms? How come you're allowing somebody from Norway to come in and put up these solar projects? The company that signed the contract wasn't from Norway. That company was sold 3 or 4 times before they started the project, and now the company from Norway owns it. Again, that was a contract that was done with the town, not with the county. We don't sign those if they're in a town. The county has not sponsored those, and right now the county does not see any need or any willingness to sponsor solar farms or wind farms. It's really important that, wind, they need to get bigger. Those, I don't see that's the right thing for Chautauqua County right now. Anything else?
The governor, when he was talking, I think it was in May, he said that they were going to rely on Gates Foundation for their educational system. They're going to reimagine education. And similarly, the governor said that he's going to use the protocols of IMH the University of Washington protocols that are funded by Gates. And I was wondering if you looked into those protocols, because they're essentially drastic protocols that feed into the Gates Foundation's involvement in the pharmaceutical industry. So it seems to me there's a huge conflict of interest. Do you know if they're still relying on those University of Washington Gates protocols?
Do I know if they are?
Yeah.
That I do not know. I can tell you with 25 years of education, I would never support online education like they're trying to do right now. I've got a 14-year-old son who needs to be in school. I've never gotten yelled at for jumping on my bed in Spanish class. He did last year. Those kids need that social engagement. They need that social interaction. For 25 years being in education, I firmly believe that, and I've got a degree in one in exercise science. The second one is educational leadership. I have my administrative degree to be a principal. I will never believe somebody telling me that online learning is the right thing to do. No way, shape, or form. Now, I got one master's by doing that, but that was me. That's not a 14-year-old. That's not a 7-year-old. That's not a 5-year-old. What are we teaching these kids? Nothing. They don't know how to interact with anybody. Social skills are going out the door. Ask a kid won't even look at you when you talk to them. They don't know how. Some kids have never been taught how to shake a person's hand. There's some kids, why do you walk in the right side of the door every time? That's the way you're supposed to go in. Why do you hold the door for that person? For your elders, for a woman, that's what you're supposed to do. Those are things that we learn in school. And you know what is best? The bullying is something I totally frown on, okay? I was never thin my life. I was a short, fat kid when people used to pick on me. I had a kid that picked on me and he goes, boy, I hope you don't have a good memory. I said, yeah, I do. Because at 5'10", 245 pounds now, I've wrestled, I've been all over the world. Yeah, I remember. Well, the reason I say that is this. You know, even kids learn how to figure problems out themselves. I'm not saying with fists, I'm not condoning that, but what I'm saying is kids learn to do that. So do we need education? Yes. We need teachers teaching our kids. You ask any teacher right now, the last thing they want to do is what they're doing on Zooms and these online meetings. And they basically teach the same course 2 days in a row. Because you teach it to the first class, it's in person, then you teach it to the kids online, and obviously you know the kids online don't pay attention. So you got to teach it again, and it's vice versa. It's not the most effective method. And I don't believe listening to Bill Gates, and Bill Gates does not have a degree in education, so between you and I don't listen to what Bill Gates says when it comes to education. For 25 years I've been there. Kids need to be in school. We need to learn. They need to be exposed to things, you know, and sometimes it's not the best things they're exposed to, but they learn to make those decisions. That's what education is about. I've said this a lot. I thought I educated more kids as a phys ed teacher than any other teacher in the classroom. Because in my class they can talk, they can engage, they can maybe mess around a little bit, but they knew how to take care of problems. I had a very open gym to where they could do a lot of things and talk and converse and educate each other, help each other. You don't know how to shoot a basket? Watch the guy next to you. If you don't know how to do your math problem, can you copy the kid next to you? No, you can do that in gym class. I'm teaching you how to learn, using your eyes, using your body, using your ears. So again, education is hands-on. You can't do that behind a computer, and anybody who says that is ridiculous. And we talked about it today. I believe NYSET really needs to have a loud voice in upcoming elections, and they need to be strong in their position on online learning. Because right now, like you said, that's in jeopardy in New York State. I don't know why our governor does not like education as it's being performed, because guess what? It's been working for a couple hundred years, and I don't think the people in New York State are lack of being educated. Not one bit. Not enough. Yeah, question in the back.
Yeah, PJ, thanks for everything you've done, your service as a first responder and educator and all that. I just want a little bit of clarification that an incident that happened about a month ago right here in the town of Busti. So the town of Busti usually holds their annual apple fray, and they decided to cancel that, I think, more than a month in advance. But there was another small, privately owned business, Pumpkin Town, that decided to schedule a craft festival that weekend. And at the last minute, 2 days before the festival was supposed to happen, you reached out to them, and there's conflicting reports depending on what news source you look at in terms of what the nature of that conversation was. But the end result was is that they canceled their craft festival 2 days before it was supposed to start, turned away vendors that had already paid money, and meanwhile up the road, Southern Tier Brewing Company has a beer festival where probably twice as many people that were to attend the craft festival of Pumpkin Town showed up with alcohol in the mix, and that was allowed to go on without any sort of outreach from the county. So could you just sort of clarify that situation?
Yeah. The decision to close that was made by the health department. I reached out to the individuals because I asked them if they wanted to assume the responsibility. One thing that needs to be noted, I asked the individuals of Pumpkin Town if they filled out all the proper forms, if they filled everything out, and if they could, on Wednesday, could they please get that to me Thursday morning? I was told yes. I did not have it. I went to the state. I said, can you please look up and see if this is listed? That group was opened. I have the paper not with me. It's in a file in my office. Thursday night at 8:50 p.m., they went online and got the attestation and affirmation to register their business after they had been opened, which, if the county wanted to, could go back and impose a fine for every day they were open and did not have the safety form filled out or a safety plan. When that festival was to take place, we did not close Pumpkin Town. The festival itself was closed, and that was by the health department. And as of that Saturday, the safety plan was not in hand to the health department. So that's the statement that I can make.
So instead of the health department and the county sort of helping these folks out and helping
They did.
do it right, we decided to shut them down? Is that
They
right?
they reached out. Bill Boria worked extensively. There's a chain of emails from Bill with the people that owned it about how to get things moving forward. That chain started. That's where it was in place. That took place Thursday morning when I asked for those documents to be sent to me, and they weren't. So Bill took over, as advised by my legal counsel. The health department makes those decisions. That is in their hands. And the health department did work with that group to get things finalized and up and running. And Pumpkin Town has not slowed. Pumpkin Town's been open every weekend. That's where it stands. Anything else? I appreciate everybody's efforts tonight and everything you guys are doing. There are some signs over there with mine. I don't have stakes if you want. I do have a couple. Yeah, I do have my truck. Okay, all right. So there. If you want some signs, feel free.
Hey, George.
That's it. Anything else? All right, thank you.
Thank you so
Oh,
much.
thank you. Sorry.